Fabiano Caruana surprises many, cruising to a victory in rapid over Nakamura at the showdown in St. Louis. The European Team Championships continue, and Magnus Carlsen's struggles continue, dropping rating points like flies. The TCEC Championship, with the two strongest chess players in the world going at it, Grandmaster Robert Hess and I have in-depth coverage. This is ChessCenter. If you're not excited to be here, there's nothing more I can do for you. Let's get going. Well, the most surprising part of this week in the world of chess maybe wasn't the fact that Caruana actually won this rapid and sort of wild affair in St. Louis, where you and I both predicted Nakamura to be the heavy favorite. But the fact that Carlsen just keeps bleeding rating points, Sean, losing to Levon Aronian for the first time in 26 games, as we can see from this interesting tweet full of facts. Sean, I got to ask you, which are you more surprised about? The fact that Magnus Carlsen is in a free fall right now like we've never seen, or that you and I were just absolutely terribly wrong about our prediction of what would happen in St. Louis?
Oh, I'm much more surprised at the failure of our prediction. No, just kidding. I do feel like my whole world is turned on its head. We just had Ronda Rousey lose her title in a UFC fight. Magnus Carlsen is not playing like himself, and then our predictions are wrong. I feel like we've switched in some sort of evil universe, and we should expect to see Spock walking around with a goatee.
I agree. I'm as lost as you are about all this. Maybe not about our predictions, but Let's see who can turn it around first, Magnus or Rousey, right? We'll have to wait to the end of the year to find out, but definitely interesting stuff. Well, we have to keep the fans updated on the strongest chess match in history right now, Robert, even though it's not being played between two humans. Right now, as you can see from the standings, Komodo is up 3 games after 46 games having been played in this epic 100-game match. I'm not sure we expect anything to change in the last 50 games, Robert, and for Stockfish to suddenly start evaluating positions differently. But what do you think the final score of this match is going to be if you had to predict now?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's +3 in Komodo's favor. I see that going up to +5, Danny, because as we saw last week, Komodo won the first 2 games and now has won 2-1 in the games since then. So Komodo, I think, will go +5.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And with that, we're going to jump over from the standings and show you guys the 4 critical games. Since the last time we updated you, there's been about 25 more games, but we're not going to make you sit through all that. We only make Robert do that. And Robert came up with some gold, though. He came up with the first one here from game 22. The most interesting thing about the position was not that King G4 was played, but that after the move was played, Stockfish suddenly realized his position was not +9, but it was just a draw. Robert, tell everybody why this is a draw after King G4, and try to justify, if you can, Stockfish's complete oversight here.
Well, Stockfish must have thought the pawn's just going to steamroll down the queen side and get another young lady, but unfortunately, the king is very riskily placed, I should say, and after the move Rook G2 check, King F3, and simply Rook back to B2, well, there are all sorts of threats. The bishop on F5 is on pre, and you're not quite in time to promote and to avoid perpetual check. So Stockfish overestimated the position, and Komodo was able to salvage the half point.
Exactly, and after the repeating of moves, it was just a draw just like that. Jumping ahead to game 36, we did finally see Stockfish strike, right? It was interesting because I think this is where Stockfish is at his best, understanding some dynamic tension and aiming for the bishop pair. You know Stockfish loves himself the bishop pair. He played C5. Really nice pawn sack in the center, right? Aimed at taking advantage of some of Black's kind of awkward development and exposing the d-file. We're not going to take a look at the whole game, but a few moves showed that Stockfish was able to get plenty of compensation for the sack pawn after knight to b5, heading into d6. This bishop is going to find a nice diagonal here. There's open play against the black king. A few more moves to show you quickly led to a position with white having won back the pawn and keeping the bishop pair, which led to a pretty easy middle game and eventually a better end game for the former world champion, former best in the world maybe, before Komodo came along. Game 38, Robert, tell everybody what Komodo did here that just, I mean, I know it blew your mind. I'd like you to keep it PG now that the kids are watching, but tell us the move that was played here that was just phenomenal by Komodo.
Yeah, Danny, Komodo and Stockfish were shuffling pieces back and forth, but with Black here, Komodo made the fantastic move F6, and it just looks like it's trading pawns, but after pawn takes F6, this was really the move that blew my mind. Bishop to F4.
Boom.
And it just, That is just mind-boggling. Why are you going to go bishop f4 and not recapture? The real idea is to reroute that bishop on the b8 to h2 diagonal, threaten some checkmate ideas, and with that, Komodo seized the initiative and eventually won a very nice ending.
Yeah, it was amazing because, as you said, for those who didn't see the whole game, and we understand not all of you will have time, you would really appreciate why this was so awesome because, as Robert said, a lot of shuffling. We're like, is this going to be a draw any moment? But no, f6, smashing through on this h2, b8 diagonal, and Komodo went on to win the game in a really, really nice fashion. Now, the final game is one that I think is most interesting for viewers when we get into this debate about what computers still misevaluate, if anything. One thing we saw in Hikaru Nakamura's match versus Stockfish, you can see an image of that right here, when he even had the assistance of Rybka, is the one thing Stockfish consistently maybe overestimated still is space. Now, Stockfish did agree that Komodo was doing fine here as black, but he still thought his position was fine, and I know that it's mainly because of the way it's evaluating a space advantage. But Robert, tell me as a human grandmaster what you see when you look at this position that Stockfish didn't.
Yeah, I think Stockfish is like one of those rich folks who thinks having a mansion with 20 bedrooms is a good idea. It loves the space, but has nothing to do with it. So
Right.
Stockfish really loved its position, thought it was fine, maybe even slightly better for a while. But realistically, black has two bishops, something to keep in mind, and black is the only one who can break open the position, and did so with the move f5. And after f5, white is very cramped, black is gaining space on the king's side, and black went on to win a very nice game. And it just shows that Stockfish isn't quite up to pace with engines like Komodo and understanding that space isn't everything.
Yeah, well said. And space, it's not the space that counts, but it's how you use it, right? I'm pretty sure that's the thing. At least that's what I've been telling myself for a while. And you can see that Stockfish didn't understand how to use the space. Moves like shuffling the rook back and forth, queen comes up, and Komodo knows exactly what to do. Attack on the king side. White's space advantage is nil, at least as far as anything concrete goes. And after a few more moves, the position opened up, and we saw Komodo start launching the attack with a rook slide to g8 and a pawn advance down, and went on to win the game. So with that, we summarize our coverage, currently the update of the TCEC final. Again, you can see the standings one more time here with Komodo having a 3-game lead. By the next time we update you, I wouldn't be surprised if Robert was right, and it might be up to a +5 lead. And of course, before we let everybody go from this TCEC update, Robert, we should say that Komodo eventually went on to win this endgame in a very nice obstacle to bishop grind, and at one point announced forced checkmate in 59 moves before the game was over and before Stockfish had resigned. Robert, one, have you ever announced checkmate? And two, what's the longest checkmate you've ever seen ahead?
Yeah, it's definitely not 59 moves, Danny, and I don't think I've ever really been able to announce checkmate on the board against other grandmasters. They resigned too quickly for that. But that's got to be the most intimidating thing ever. It's like, hey,
Right.
checkmate 59 coming. What are you going to do about it, right? You're just gonna you're gonna drop your jaw. It's like if Mike Tyson came up to you and said, "Want to fight?" You know, there's nothing you can do at that point. So, Danny, that's just intimidating.
Well, I pray to never be in a position where someone's announcing checkmate that far in advance against me. So. Now it's time for our favorite game. Where in the world is Mr. Peter Dockers? Peter, how are you?
Hi, Danny. As you can see, I'm in the playing hall of the European Championship. You can see the boards right behind me.
I do.
I'm actually in the Laugard Dals Hall, a very big sports complex in Reykjavik, which happens to be the same venue as where the match of the century was played. That's, of course, Spassky versus Fischer in 1972. The tournament has seen some big GM clashes already. For example, in the second round, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave defeated Levon Aronian to secure a win for France against Armenia. That was in fact the day after the terrible tragedy in Paris.
Yeah.
After skipping the first two rounds, Magnus Carlsen joined the Norwegian team in round 3. But the world champion lost his first game to Levon Aronian. The Armenian number 1 really has an up and down tournament so far, because in the fourth round he lost to Michael Adams.
Yeah.
Carlsen himself drew his next game to Suneberg Hansen of Denmark. After beating Ukraine on Monday, Russia is the only team to start with 4 victories. And the same can be said for their female colleagues in the women's section. There, Russia won the crucial match with Georgia on Monday. After the rest day on Wednesday, 4 more rounds will be played here in Reykjavik, and then we will know who will be the new European team champions for both the open and women's sections.
Well, very informative as always, Peter. We thank you and wish you the best of luck wrapping things up at the European Team Championships. As mentioned earlier, we know that Caruana pulled what a lot of people would deem an upset. It certainly was an upset according to me and Sean McCoy, who predicted Hikaru Nakamura to be the huge favorite in a rapid 960 type of match. But whether it was Fabiano Caruana surprising many with great play or Hikaru Nakamura crumbling with bad play, what we saw here in this rapid game really makes no sense to anyone. Robert, you look at this position, and there aren't a lot of options here for black, but one that shouldn't be on your list is the move Hikaru Nakamura played, f6. Robert, explain yourself. Explain yourself.
Danny, I don't even know what to say. The typical move is queen to d5 instead of f6, just getting your queen out into the center of the board, attacking that knight, attacking g2. Very natural idea. f6 is a move that I never would consider because it opens up your king to the move queen h5 check, as Caruana must have been shaking his head confused. He's really unsure of how this could happen in the Super Grandmaster game. And after g6, knight takes g6, h takes g6, queen takes h8, you're simply down an exchange and a pawn. Your king is never going to find safety, and white is just going to castle and make the most of his advantage. So really just an unfathomable mistake by Nakamura, and Caruana sees the advantage right away.
Well said, and with that, I think we'll move on. Hikaru, you got the blunder this week, man. Joining us now for the other news topics hitting the chess world is, of course, FIDE Master Mike Klein. Mike, where have you been, and what do you got for us this week?
Danny, I'm doing well. Just got back from St. Louis. Got to see a very exciting match. 18 games played over 4 days between the top two Americans, Grandmasters Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana. Hikaru did okay the first couple days, but come rapid and blitz, surprise, surprise, Caruana handled his business, ended up winning the match with 2 games to play. Now, in the undercard, Hao Yifan played an even more accelerated Swiss gambit. She started out 0-2 in the Basque chess, but completely dominated Pari Marjan Nagy and a lot of open Sicilians. She won 11-7. To be honest, Danny, it wasn't really as close as the score indicated.
Yeah, it's interesting, but even with Caruana winning the match, I don't think Nakamura can be too upset taking away 40 grand for the second prize. But moving on to another small tournament that finished with Alexander Morozevich winning in Barcelona. Tell us a little bit about how that event played out.
Yeah, good to see his name back in the news. In fact, if you go to chess.com/news and read the news report by Sam Copeland, Morozevich had a little bit of gray hair on the side, or maybe just a bad haircut. So he's getting up there in age, but he's still got his attacking style. He had this great game against a 2500, attacking down the A file. Now, when I say great, I mean result, not process. Turns out it was a bit unsound, but it was still good to see Morozevich play like Morozevich, win an event, and go to chess.com/news, read that news report. Danny, before our segment ends, I understand that you and Sean plan to talk about Aronian being picked as the wild card for the candidates and his chances going forward, but we have an exclusive interview with Aronian. Why don't we go ahead and show that clip now?
As you recently received a wild card for the candidates tournament, which will take place in Moscow in March. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I got very lucky that a sponsor of Armenian origin that lives in Russia, willing to trust in me. Mm-hmm. I'll try to do everything in my power to show that his trust has a basis.
So your next plans, you will play in the London Classic, and then will you play anything else before the candidates, or will you just prepare for that?
I'll play in the Zurich tournament.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know still. I mean, I'm still looking for somewhere to play. I'm still deciding what to do.
Okay.
And thanks to our man Peter Dockers for bringing us that clip live from the European Team Championships. And thank you, Mike, for segueing in there. And I'll see you under time trouble, buddy.
Can't wait.
Welcoming back Sean McCoy and shifting gears a little bit for social channel chatter. Sean, this week, Garry Kasparov was back in the news as he makes the rounds for his book tour. The new book, Winter is Coming. And as we can see here from this tweet, he recently made a cameo sitting on the actual Game of Thrones throne. I guess it's the main throne. And that led us to think of a fun question. Of all the world champions in history, who do we think would be the best Savas player? And maybe even have chances of winning a match against one Tyrion Lannister. Sean, I'm going to let you take the wheel here because we're quickly going outside of my realm of expertise.
Well, I think that Bobby Fischer is probably my candidate to win. I mean, he is the guy who made up 960, and in
Right.
Savas, you get to decide where the pieces go. So I think also he always lived in a slightly different planet than I did, so I don't think he'd be too surprised to find himself in some sort of warped medieval England setting.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Fisher's a good choice. I think it gives all the Morphy fans a chance to say Paul Morphy, right? Because everyone always wants to believe that Paul Morphy would actually be good at something nowadays. Just kidding. But all right, well, why don't we invite the viewers to leave a comment? All the Game of Thrones fans out there, all of the chess fans, let us know who you think the best world champion would be and why, and win a free premium membership, a 1-month diamond membership. Get involved with the hashtag ChessCenter and let us know what you think. As ugly as things were on the blunder side of the board, they get really nice here for the move of the week, Robert. We have Naiditch with a really nice game right here, right now. He played the move queen to d5. Well, obviously it sets up a discovered check, and maybe his opponent thought that attacking the potential checker was going to be enough to stop the coming doom. But Robert, let's explain to the people why that was simply not enough.
Yeah, it looks like it does stop that discovery check, but knight to d8 was just a fantastic resource. The idea is, yes, you can capture my queen, as Essen did, but after rook takes e8 check, well, you're going to be checkmated very soon. If you go bishop takes e8 here, which looks like a natural response, well, I actually just going to mate you quite quickly as well. I mean, bishop takes d5 check, king f8, and then bishop e7 checkmate. So
Boom.
unexpected in the position. Of course, in the game, Essen did not go bishop takes e8. He went bishop to f8, but he's still getting checkmated after bishop takes d5 check, king g7, and then rook 1 to e7 check. Just a smashing victory for Naiditch with rook g8 mate. And it looks like Naiditch, who just transferred from Germany to Azerbaijan, is liking the bottom boards for the Azeri team more than he did the top boards for Germany.
Yeah, well, it's easy to like wherever you're playing when you're winning games like this. This goes right into tactics trainer, right? Nothing like a discovered check and queen sacrifice to keep the party going at the European Team Championship. So we're just going to show that one more time because everyone loves an instant replay of a slam dunk, and I think mating someone with a queen sacrifice is equivalent to a slam dunk highlight in the NBA. So congratulations, Naiditch. You are the winner of our Move of the Week. Well, you're going to have to get your long-range binoculars out for our looking ahead subject today, Sean. I know you're excited about this because your boy, Levon Aronian, as we talked about earlier, took down Magnus Carlsen for the first time in 26 games, and that got us thinking, not only with Magnus's struggles right now, that there may be some chances that some of these guys might be able to take him out in a match. But before we get to that, does this put Levon in the driver's seat in regards to the candidates? He's won the Sinquefield Cup. He's having a very good end of the year, and with beating Magnus Carlsen, is he our early favorite for the candidates in March, or are we still too early to tell?
Well, I think it's a little bit too early to tell. Of course, he's going to be one of my favorites because he's one of my favorite chess players. But the one thing I feel he definitely did do is justify the fact that he was a last-minute pick to get put into the candidates match. So you just cannot question that anymore. And his win at Sinquefield, I think, is very important. It shows that he can win over a field of similar strength that we're going to see in the candidates tournament. So in a way, it looks like some of the stars are aligning for a new world championship in Levon's direction. And that wouldn't be something that I'd mind at all.
Yeah, I got to admit, I feel the same way. It seems like things are coming together. We know Levon struggled a lot in 2014, so to see him sort of turning things around, one of the nicest guys in the professional chess community, a lot of people I think are happy for him, and it looks his chances look good for March. I'm still rooting for one of the two Americans to perhaps pull it out, either Fabiano or Hikaru, but Levon looks good. Welcome back, Mike, but don't get cozy. Mike Matheny played in the Showdown, a side event with some other celebrities. Now, he's the Cardinals baseball manager. Why do I care about this as a Cubs fan?
Oh, Mike told me once he practices tactics on Chess.com, but you know what? Didn't help the Cardinals this year. Now, Nakamura recently said that the London Classic, a lot of players are going to be hiding their real preparation in anticipation of the candidates. Is that going to make it an exhibition?
I don't buy it. I think people want to win the Grand Chess Tour finale. Now, Zurich has decided to make its all-around time control much faster, 40 minutes plus 10 seconds. This is a purely rapid event now. Do we like this change?
He who holds the purse strings gets to decide the format. I know Greg Shahadi will be happy. Hao Yifan told Chess.com that she really wants to be a Harvard Crimson. Is that the place for her to go?
No, Yale. We got Bobby Hess into Chess Club. Now, the Bangkok Open in 2016 announced it'll be back in its city location. Mike, are you looking forward to one more night in Bangkok?
I am. Pom Chab Krap. I like it. And lastly, Caruana says that his match with Nakamura is not going to bring them closer together, but Danny, what will?
Hey, it's a rivalry, man. They're not going to be best buds tomorrow. Everyone needs to get over it. Well, that's it. We thank you for joining us for Time Trouble, Mike, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Danny.